Hello and welcome to Coffee Catch-ups Espresso with Amelia and Tanya. We are from Coffee Catch-ups podcast and you are listening on Cross Rhythms Plymouth 96.3 FM. And today we are talking about the wonderful world of online dating.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Oh, joy! Can you feel the
Yikes.
excitement in our voices?
I
It's
know.
such a beautiful topic.
Absolutely none of it is sarcastic whatsoever.
No, not at all.
So, I mean, have you done online dating?
Oh, yeah. I have done online dating backwards, forwards, and upside down. I don't think that's the right phrase. Online dating is like one of the worst and also a great thing. And I don't know how I feel about online dating.
Yeah.
But I have some stats about online dating.
Oh, amazing.
Would you like to hear
The
them?
stats gal is back and I would
She
love
is
to hear
back.
what she has
She
to
is
say.
back. Anyway, here I'm going to hit you with some fascinating
Hit me
facts.
with it. I'm here for it.
So, 55% of heterosexual couples were meeting online in 2021.
Wow.
That obviously is going to be ramped up by COVID.
Yeah, definitely.
79% of online dating users are under 30.
Wow, yeah, fair enough.
I mean, that statistic makes sense anyway because younger people generally date anyway. But according to this survey, 1 in 10 couples, long-term partners met online.
Okay.
So 1 in 10, and that includes the whole population. So that includes think how many people have met before. Like online dating was even a thing.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense then in that case.
So yeah, however, interestingly, which I think is really interesting, is recently there's been a drop off in people using online from the Gen Z generation.
Really?
So Gen Zs, the young whippersnappers, the cool kids.
Which is very much not us.
We're almost Gen Z, actually.
We're
almost on the millennial border to Gen Z, but we are millennials.
We are millennials. We do identify as millennials.
I do very much because I worked with. I had a 5-month contract over kind of autumn Christmas period just gone, where I was working with a lot of Gen Zs, and I did notice a huge difference in them to me. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the Gen Zs, the young kids, they are as of 2024, they've dropped off by 16% using online dating apps.
Wow.
Preferring to do face-to-face groups, in-person speed dating, and other quirky forms of in-person meetups.
How interesting. Do you know what? I kind of understand that. I can kind of get behind that as well because I mean, the speed dating stresses me out. I've never done it, but the concept of it is stressful. So discounting that, I kind of understand.
Out of interest, Amelia, how long do you think you have with each person when speed dating?
I don't know, 2 minutes?
2 minutes, okay.
Is that about right?
Well, I've only been to one once. Out of moral support for a friend because I had the same approach to it as you did of being like, it's stressful. It was 5 minutes. It was it was actually better than I thought it would be.
Okay, that still doesn't sound like a lot of time though because I need to get into the nitty gritty.
Sometimes, mate, it's too much time.
That is fair.
Okay?
That is fair.
Sometimes you're like, no, this is a no for me. and more importantly, it is quicker. No, it's not quicker. More importantly, it gives you more time than if you're just swiping left or right. Because one of the other, I don't have the stat on me right now, but it is like, I think a second people often decide.
Really?
When they get that first picture up.
Oh my gosh.
Because so quite often you just are confronted with one image of somebody.
That's crazy.
And then you'll go yay or no instantly on their looks. And then if you like the look of them, then you might have a little read of their profile.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things about online dating that I do not enjoy.
Yeah, no, that is fair. That is fair. I think I try and I try not to do that. So I try and force myself to even if I initially kind of go no, I do kind of go down the profile and try and see if we've got kind of interests and stuff that align, because at the end of the day, if you just marry someone based on their looks, do you know what I mean? It's just it's not necessarily going to work out. You can't do that.
I'd be surprised if anybody does.
No, I know exactly,
just
but
on
you know what I
looks,
mean.
you know?
Like, but at the end of the day, if marriage is the goal for you, and not just like a quick hookup, like you want to get to know their personality, and actually, like I think a lot of people, from what I've seen, say that actually like the person that they ended up with was not their like physical type at all.
Yeah.
But their personalities matched so well that it just kind of worked.
Yeah, and let's be honest, like if you're looking for a long-term partner or marriage, your bodies and what you look like is going to change massively.
Yeah, so true.
By the time, you know, you're 10 years down the line, 20, 30, then by the time you're old, you can have very different bodies.
Yes.
So it's a very silly thing to do, to just think about looks. However, there is also, you know, a lot of people would say you've got to be attracted to your partner and physically in some way. So there is also, I also do understand why people make that decision, but I don't think they should make it so quickly in a second. Flash of a second.
Absolutely
left,
not.
right, swipe.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? But I think back on the Gen Z thing, like in terms of preferring to meet people in person, I totally relate to that because I am a hopeless romantic at heart. And if you've seen The Holiday, as I'm sure many of you have,
The Christmas film,
which I also sometimes just watch at other times of the year as well if I want to feel good, because it's a great film. But the whole idea of a meet cute is very much something that I would like. Like I genuinely want to be that person who's like sat in a coffee shop just kind of reading, and a handsome man walks past the window and sees me reading and kind of goes, oh, she's really nice, and then walks in, and then we kind of have a conversation, and that's it, and that, you know, together forever kind of thing.
Nice.
Like that sounds very ideal to me.
It does. It
As an
absolutely
introvert, it sounds very ideal.
And it's very romantic, and let's be honest, like, you know, that does sound very sort of magical, but isn't necessarily always the case, and isn't the case for the majority of the people, for a majority of a lot of people. So we're going to talk more about online dating, the pros, the cons, the should we even be doing it, right after we listen to some music.
Hello, welcome back to Coffee Catch-ups Espresso on Cross Rhythms Plymouth. We're talking about online dating, the joys of the world of online dating. We are going to talk about some of the positives later, but for the moment, what are some of the drawbacks of online dating?
It is a very inefficient process sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
I think in some ways it's a very efficient process, and in other times it's really inefficient. Like, at least you know that hopefully most people on the dating apps are single. I say hopefully, it's not always the case. I've heard
so
stories
true.
Where you know, anyone can have a profile, so there's no guarantee of that. But hopefully most people are using it earnestly and for the right reasons. But it's also incredibly inefficient because, you know, when you meet somebody in person, for example, when you just have a quick conversation, or even just in being in person, you get more of an energy vibe. You understand them a bit better because you can hear the sound of their voice, you can read their body language, you can see them in person, and so you gauge an idea of whether you like them or whether you're a good match much more quickly. And especially with online dating, you match with people and you might like what they've written or like what they look like, but you won't really know till you meet them if you like them, whereas you would have if you'd met them in person. And then, you know, there's that kind of potential expectation of, oh, I really like chatting to them on the app and we're having a lovely time. You get your hopes up, and then you meet and you go, oh. And so that can be a real kind of roller coaster. Another thing that I find, having spoken to a lot of people about the subject actually, is real kind of taking the humanity out of it. They're just a face. Yeah. It's just a picture of a person. And I think what you were saying earlier before we had a little break was that you really go in intentionally and try to see people as not just the picture and not just but that is a real intentional thing. Quite often I find myself, and I know lots of people just fall into, well, they're not really a person till I've met them kind of thing. And there's a danger with that you perhaps treat people worse than you would if you actually knew them. Like you'd ghost more easily. Ghosting's a huge thing.
Oh my gosh, ghosting is awful.
Thing. You know, perhaps you do treat them more vainly with looks and everything, and you judge very quickly. So there are a lot of things about it, and also, sorry, I could rant forever about this subject, couldn't I? But there's always another person.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
swipe. Oh, there's another person. So treats these people a bit like a commodity.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if sometimes when people are maybe starting in relationships and things get a little tricky, or they go, well, there's another 1,000 people on the dating app.
Yeah, so true. And yeah, no, that's definitely quite an interesting one. And even, you know, as you're talking to one person, you're like, oh, it's fine, because if it doesn't work out, like, you know, sometimes I can be having a conversation with someone on the dating app, and then like 2 minutes later I'm looking at all the potential other people that are there, and that's not a bad thing, because obviously that's what you're there to do. But like, I know exactly what you mean, and it's the kind of, sometimes it can breed that kind of attitude, and I think that's something we have to be quite careful of. And like you were saying about ghosting as well, it's such a pet peeve. I'm like, just send a message. If you don't think it's working out, or if you're seeing someone else, just say so. Like, we're all adults, do you know what I mean? Like, just say, hi, it's been nice chatting, but I'm seeing some, like, you know, just don't leave them hanging. Do you know what I mean?
Controversially, I think there's a place for ghosting.
Very
Controversial
occasionally.
opinion alert, but I think if it's I suppose it's more of a ghost fizzle. Like, where
the jazz hands were my favourite part of that.
The fizzle, the ghosting fizzle. I need to ghost you when, like, it's just sort of fizzled out and you both sort of ghost each other. That's okay. And then I also had to ghost somebody once who would not leave me alone.
That's like fair enough.
Stalker ghost, like that. Those kind of obsessive vibes. That's when I ghosted.
Yeah, and that's completely understandable. It's more sort of when you're in the middle of a conversation, because I've had this a couple of times where I've been having a really nice conversation with a guy, and then, like, you know, you've asked a question, and then there's nothing, and I'm like, were we not having a nice conversation? Like, I'm not being funny. If you're going on a date with someone else and you think it's working out, I'm really happy for you. Just say, like, it's not necessary.
Because also, how do you respond to that? I find is quite funny. Is, do you? Because I've known of people do the messages that go, okay, don't reply then, or the passive aggressive, well, it was lovely getting to know you, just to make a point. Like, I personally try to subscribe to the let them theory of, okay, they've ghosted me, I'm just going to let them do that.
Yeah.
But also there are times when I'm like so frustrated for the same reasons that you've just said, that I'm like, please don't ghost. It is totally fine but just don't ghost me. Like, it's totally fine to not want to go on a date. That is fine. But I have done it before once. I did it to this guy. I was like, it is okay to say that you don't want to go on a date. And he was like, oh yeah, you're a bit intense. And I was like, am I? Meet me in person, I'm not intense.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think, sort of along a similar vein, the other thing I kind of really hate about it is when you match with someone and then you message and they don't reply, and you're like, why did you match with me if you don't want to talk?
Probably because they're talking to someone else. That doesn't bother me as much.
Does it not?
It's the thing that bothers me is when you've started a conversation and then...
Yeah, no, that is definitely more annoying. But it's a pet peeve. It's just kind of like, why? Like, I don't understand why you would match with me in the first place and then not say anything. And also, I kind of, in a way, I'm also kind of hate the whole, hi, how are you? I mean, so the dating app that I'm on, it's so boring, right? The dating app that I'm on, Salt, which is a Christian dating app, guys, just letting you know. I joke. But like, it's, you know, they literally give you prompts, right? Like, when you start the conversation, it literally says, why don't you ask them, like, what the best movie was that they've seen? Or like, oh, I really liked this about your profile. It literally gives you prompts. If you're stuck for something to say, don't just say, hi, how are you? Get creative.
Or, I think, use some would you rathers. I know. And
that's a great idea.
It's a really good idea. I think I said that to you one time.
Yeah,
you
did.
We were just talking about online dating. I was like, you can always use the would you rathers. Like, I also, you know, some of the snack chat content from this. I'm just using this show in my dating life.
That's
like,
great.
What is the most underrated biscuit? It's excellent small talk.
Really good small talk.
Top tier small talk. None of this hi, how are you thing.
And you can tell quite a lot about them from their answer, I think, and how creative they get with it. And
if they say Biscoff, are we into a winner or a loser? Who knows?
That is the question.
Yeah.
That is the question.
Right, we should take a break.
We really should. We are going to come back and talk about the pros of online dating after some music. Whoop whoop, hello. We are back.
We're back.
We are back. We've had some great music and we are talking about online dating.
Yes.
So
swiping fun.
we've had a little rant about some of the drawbacks of online dating. But it's not all bad, right? What are some of the good bits?
Oh, well, there's so many pluses. Firstly, like, it's way more normal than it used to be.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
like
for
in the
sure.
noughties, online dating was like this.
It was desperate, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like, oh, you've obviously run out of options. And so I actually really like that it's kind of normalised.
Yeah, so
For
good.
me, I travel around so much that it's actually really helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
To have that kind of thing of something online that's a bit more remote based, and that's really cool. And then you perhaps meet people that you wouldn't normally.
Yeah, so true. So true.
And there's loads of people who've met their long-term partner dating online.
Yeah.
So it cannot be all bad. It's like one of these, it's many things in life. It's how you use it, I think.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What are your thoughts?
I think for me...
Because you've been on a journey with it. You were
I
first
have,
very like,
yeah.
I'm never doing it.
Yeah. So do you know what? I was thinking it's really good that we're having this conversation today. And because the last time we recorded, I was not even on a dating app, was I? And because literally the whole time that this has been a thing that I've been able to date and dating apps have been a thing, I have always said I will not be on a dating app because I didn't want to do it. I didn't think there was anything intrinsically bad about it. But to be honest, I just felt that for me, I was like, because kind of like what I said, I really do want a meet cute kind of thing. And for me, I think there was a sort of a fear that if I got onto online dating that it would kind of take that away, which I had to kind of make myself realise that didn't take away the opportunity for a meet cute. It's not that it necessarily wouldn't happen, but that, you know, it was just opening myself up to a different possibility. And I was being quite passive as well, I think, by just kind of hoping something would happen organically with someone that I hadn't met yet, you know? So yeah, it has been a bit of a journey. And then I think it was literally the day that we last recorded, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we were sat in Wetherspoons and I was like, for goodness sake, I'm just going to do it. So I downloaded Salt and here we are. And I have since been on my first ever date. Yay! Because literally had never had a relationship before, never been on a date. And so, yeah, that experience is ticked off. And it was a really nice experience. It was really lovely. And
yeah, dating can be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been treated really well, and it didn't work out, which is a bit sad, but that's okay. And like, I actually, you know, I'm quite proud of myself actually, because I know I can hang on to these things quite a lot.
For sure.
And I haven't, and I've taken it as a good experience, and it's been a nice experience, and we've moved on. And
one of the things you said to me as well, was like, oh, I didn't realise there were quite a lot of people on here. And I think that's one of the things that sometimes the pro of online dating is that you meet people out of your sphere of kind of meeting people. So like before online dating, the places where you'd meet people would be through other friends, and then work. And I don't know about you, but I personally never really want to cross that line at work.
No, me neither.
And so actually, it's a really great way of meeting a variety of different people, and that can be fantastic. Yeah,
exactly. And I think one of the other things I quite like about it as well, like particularly within, I mean, I don't, because I've never tried like Tinder or Hinge or whatever, but particularly within the world of Christian dating, I think there's this like intentionality of like, we're both here for the same reasons. Like most people are looking for something that down the line is going to lead to long-term commitment, which is quite nice. And so I think, and as a person who wants that as well, it's quite nice to have those intentional conversations, because it made me just feel a bit more secure in that, because I have had a couple of sort of like situationships or have been like led on a little bit. So it's quite nice to have that almost like security in knowing that actually, like, if this does lead anywhere, there should, like, for the most part, most people will be looking for purpose in that, as opposed to just
there obviously are exceptions to that.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's a really cool thing. It is, like I said, it really is what you make of it. But I also think another thing, and I know this isn't necessarily a pro, but I think it's worth talking about, is knowing when to step away from them. Like I've definitely experienced through my years of using different online dating apps, is actually sometimes you get burnout. Like online dating burnout, where you're like, I'm no longer, this is taking a lot of energy when you really struggle to reply to people because I'm just so exhausted.
Yeah.
Or if you've had a bad couple of runs of dates and you need a bit of a break. I also know that there can be a temptation, and I've faced this myself, and I know a lot of people who do, of enjoying the validation of somebody matching with you without necessarily really wanting to take it further.
Yeah.
I know it sounds awful. I know it sounds bad, but it is a thing. And I think that's when you know that actually I need to take a step back from this and then come back to it later. And that's the thing, is if you might be sick and tired of dating apps at the moment, take a break, come back to it when you feel ready, if you feel ready. So it really is just something to use if you want to, and not, as long as you're treating people with respect. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And also, I've met a few good mates via it, weirdly. Like, people have ended up following me on Instagram and stuff, and then like we've kept in contact, and it's been nice, because it's not. Although, fun story.
Love it. Come on.
One of the really interesting things about online dating is that you do meet people that you would never meet in normal life.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so you meet people who are so different to you. And I also really enjoy stories about bad dates, in the sense of, I find them really funny. I think they are funny. I think if you can have a lighter approach to dating sometimes, I think it's really helpful. Yes, be intentional, but also don't be so intense. Because then you can have a little bit of a laugh. I went on a date with somebody who was so right-wing, and I don't run in incredibly right circles, believe it or not. I'd never met anybody that had these beliefs, and I was like, wow. Yeah. This is fascinating. You are fascinating. Tell me everything about you. And I was so interested in this person from a nosy perspective. I knew we would clash too much. But I remember thinking, wow, I just never would have met you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a political difference, or it can be anything. But you can meet people and you go, wow, I don't want to date you, carry on, but I'm really glad I met you.
Yeah,
you're so different. And I think that's a really good approach to take it, rather than I must meet my long-term partner. That's been helpful for me to hold things lighter.
Yeah, no, I think that I really like that, actually. It's flipping that perspective and turning something that could be quite a negative experience into quite a positive one, actually. And I think that's really important.
And if it is a negative experience, get a couple of mates around and have a laugh about it.
Yeah, totally.
I've definitely told Amelia a lot of my bad dating stories. Do send them to us. We really would love to hear those. It's so funny. There's one I've got about this long walk that I went on with somebody that turned into a total disaster, and I was really upset about it. I had to take myself on another walk to recover. But now it's one of my funny stories.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely love it. This has been so much fun. I really enjoyed talking about this. We are going to be back very soon with Snack Chat, talking about food you shouldn't eat on a first date. Back soon. Hello, welcome back to Coffee Catch-ups Espresso on Cross Rhythms Plymouth. We have been talking about online dating, the joys, the not so joyful bits. It's been a rollercoaster ride, hasn't it?
It's been joyful.
As is online dating. That is exactly what it is. So we are going to talk about, in Snack Chat, foods you shouldn't eat on a first date.
Nice.
What if you were giving people advice about their first date and they weren't sure in terms of going out for a meal, what to eat and what not to eat, what would you say?
Well, I know that the answer really here should be anything that's exceptionally messy.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a brilliant thing to do. So really, you shouldn't be eating like chicken wings or like street food, or you get your hands all messy. But I have a funny story about how this totally worked for me.
Really?
Yeah. I suppose it wasn't a first date, it was a second date.
Okay.
So he'd already realised how annoying I was. Because he then went on a second date with me.
It's a good sign.
It's a good sign, but it was like, we were at a pub. That's just so embarrassing. We were at a pub, just like chatting. I was in this really like elegant outfit. We're having a very sophisticated meal. I had a lovely glass of wine. And I had some like salad on my plate as well as the other food. I can't remember what I was eating, but I remember the salad because at one point I just picked it up with my fingers and like shoved it in my mouth. Really, I didn't even know I was doing it. I just did it, and he burst out laughing.
Brilliant.
And yeah, he thought it was really, really funny. He said it like made him like me even more. And we dated for a year.
I love it.
Like we were
so
together for a
funny.
long time. So so that works. So although I would say try not to just shove salad in your mouth in a really unattractive gremlin-like way that I did. But if it's the right person, they'll love it anyway.
Oh, so good. I really enjoy that so much. Oh man. I mean, you know, the classic answer, like you say, is messy food, like spaghetti bolognese or carbonara or whatever you want, because it just...
Lady and the Tramp.
I mean, yeah, but if we're not sharing, which I feel would be a bit weird anyway on a first date.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, no, because it's just, it flicks everywhere. Like, you know, you can't wear anything it's going to stain on because, my goodness, it does get everywhere.
My goodness. It does. You know, I just had a thought about, you know, when you go and you order a fancy burger and they come and they're like really stacked.
Yeah.
I would say make a choice, which normally I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Because I like a challenge to cut it. I would use my cutlery, whereas normally I just like shove it in my face.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's
so true. Yeah, because it comes out everywhere, doesn't it? I remember sitting in you know, Everyman, where they have the cinema, where they have food and stuff. Yeah. And you can get food and they bring it to you while you're watching the film. Great concept, but because they turn the lights out, you can't see what you're eating. And I had this burger, and then when I came out of the film, I looked down, and there was just sauce everywhere.
Please tell me this wasn't a date.
It wasn't a date.
Okay, that's all right.
It wasn't a date, but like I was just with some friends. But my gosh, I looked down at myself after the film, after the lights came up after the film, and I was like, how did I get this much sauce down me? And I didn't even know because I just couldn't see it. It was awful.
Love that.
But in terms of a date, obviously, like I say, spaghetti I wouldn't go for. But weirdly, pizza. Now hear me out, because
I'm shocked.
When I went on my second date with this guy that I met on Seoul, right? Having a lovely time, went to the stable, got pizza. It was really nice. But what happens when the cheese has gotten a little bit harder and it's like melded together, and you take a bite and it brings off the rest of the topping from that slice? Oh my gosh, it was so messy. And I was wearing a white top. I didn't get it down me, but it was a miracle I didn't, because I took a bite and it just brought off the rest of the topping on the slice. Not my most gracious moment. And I was honestly, I was so embarrassed. I was like trying so hard to play it off. And I don't think he noticed, or if he did, he was polite enough not to say anything. But I was mortified. I was like, why did I choose to get pizza? Because it just got really messy.
However, in defense of pizza is like an easy thing to eat.
It is, but I've noticed a few times, you take a bite of it, the rest of the topping comes off, and you're left with it's hanging out your mouth, and you've got the slice in one hand, and you're trying to gracefully put it in your mouth without shoving it in, and it's just it did not go well for me.
But I do think starters you mean to go on, and pizza is to be eaten because it's great.
I might have just saved it for a bit further down the line. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe.
So that would be my answer to that. Anyway, it's been a joy as always. I've had a lot of fun talking about online dating because it is just hilarious. As we said, do send us your dating stories because we really do want to hear them.
We do.
That is it from us. Do tune in same time next week, and we'll be back with more Coffee Catch-ups Espresso.
Bye bye.